Hi, I'm Jane with Serendip PT, and I'm here to show you some of the work that I do on clients. You might be wondering what this myofascial release is all about. So I have a client here with me who can tell us a little bit about her issues. We'll talk about the source of her pain, and then how I can go ahead and do some work to help her feel better. So with that, I'm going to have Katie tell you a little bit about what's going on.
Hi. I had an injury, or so I thought, but I think it might be all related. But the main part right now is I have some pain going down my neck, into my shoulder, down into my bicep. And then I sometimes have pain that radiates from my hip down to my left leg. And right now, this is the main part that is just really bothersome and kind of painful for me.
Okay. Can you describe that pain at all?
Yeah, it's more of an ache that kind of comes down through my jaw, down through my arm, and sometimes it's even a tight pressure.
Okay.
Even like, not necessarily like that zing of a nerve, but more like a tightness and pressure in certain ways that you move my arm and my shoulder. And then sometimes there's a burning in my shoulder blade as well as in my hip.
And that burning in the shoulder blade is a common thing.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a look at Katie and see what her dysfunctions are that might be the cause of a lot of this. So when I take a look and see her, I see that her body is shifted to the left while her hips are shifted to the right. So her body is doing this. Now our eyes always want to be level and be on straight. So her head also has a shift as it tries to get back to center, rather than sitting over here or sitting over here. The other thing that I noticed on her, let's just have your arms hang. So this waist angle looks quite different from this one. You see how Katie is leaned towards her right side, making this side shorter and a sharper angle, whereas this one is a lot straighter. And when I look at her hips, you can see how that right hip is quite a bit higher than her left hip. The spine is going to have to do a shape like this to get those eyes level and to get that head on straight. So our treatment is going to comprise of getting the pelvis level so that we can have her spine sit on top of that and her head on level on top of that so that the whole system can feel better. When you have shifts such as she does and her head is off to one side, the musculature through here is pulling and trying to bring it back to center, creating a lot of this tension. She's getting pain into her hip, which could be also a problem of the pelvis being on level. So myofascial release is going to help open up those tensions and those forces, getting that skeletal frame more aligned, having the soft tissues and the connective tissues be under less pressure and more relaxed so that that whole system can feel better, and any compression that is occurring onto nerves and arteries and blood vessels can be lessened. So with that, we'll start treatment. Okay, so we're about to treat Katie, and the first thing that I'm going to start with is opening up this short side of her body so that we can have her pelvis be level, and as we said, have that spine sit straight and her head be on top of all of that. So Katie, I want you to go ahead and lay down over this pillow. And you're going to just rest your arm down here. Take this arm and reach it up. Keep the bent knee, the bottom knee bent. And this off from here. Do you notice anything in your body so far?
Just it's tight, pulling, nice stretch.
Nice stretch through here. So I'm trying to create a nicer distance through the hip and the ribs so we can elongate that and bring this distance back to where it should be and more even with the other side. So I'm just going to sink into her body, grounding myself and centering myself as we treat, letting that tissue start to relax under my pressure. And I wait for that tissue to soften. So with myofascial release, it works in the connective tissue known as fascia. Fascia surrounds our body head to toe, covers all of our nerves, blood vessels, and organs, infuses our cells, and it can get tight with poor posture, surgery, stress, and trauma. When it does, it can pull on our tissues up to 2,000 pounds per square inch, crushing all the pain-sensitive structures, causing the skeletal frame to be out of alignment, and causing a lot of pain. So a lot of our treatment is applying the force, and as that tissue relaxes, we wait and allow for that tissue to move, never forcing, just waiting for that tissue at its own pace to start to relax. And I take up the slack and add to it. Katie, can you tell us how that feels?
It feels good, actually. Feels like a lot of the tightness is loosening up. Kind of feel like a little release of pressure on my side.
So with Myofascial Release, we always want to hold at the barriers for 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And then we reassess the body and see how things have changed. If we can go beyond that 2 minutes, we certainly do. But for our video today, we'll try and wait that 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes and see what happens. A lot of times people have gone to therapy for traditional care and they were given exercises. When the body is already too tight, giving more exercises to strengthen them is not necessarily going to be what is needed for that body. We may need to elongate and lengthen before we would need to strengthen. And maybe strength is not even the problem. Someone such as Katie, who works out a lot, doesn't have a strength issue. She has a length issue. Her fascia is too tight, causing her body to be off center and causing her to have all of her discomfort. Okay, so I have treated Katie's side, opening up the distance between her ribs and her hip so that we could have her pelvis level. At this point, I'm going to move up to her neck because the tension through here is really calling to me, and this is where her symptoms are. So we're going to go to where her symptoms are, and we started off with where a lot of the problem was that was causing her symptoms. So I'm going to start off with assessing the tissue, finding what's tight. I'm feeling to see if there are any vertebrae or spine bones that are rotated. Sometimes we may have one bone that's rotated one way and the other is stuck, rotated the other way. And where they meet, they're jammed up. And our body, being so smart, will go into a spasm in that area to prevent further damage. So I'm going to massage that area. Loosen up that tissue before I apply a myofascial technique to the front of those vertebrae or spine bones. So I'm going to come down the front of your neck. You might feel some pressure into your throat, but it's not going to injure you. But if it's too much, you just go ahead and let me know. And as I said before, we never force the tissue. I'm following at the pace that her body wants me to go. So a lot of people will come to Serendip PT and they tell me that they have tried chiropractic, massage, typical physical therapy, and they still have their symptoms. So I encourage people to try Myofascial Release because we're addressing the connective tissue. We're helping the joints to have more space between them. We're addressing that tension in the system, which is not going to happen by giving strength or manipulating a joint or simply massaging the muscles. And more than anything, myofascial release feels great. So sometimes you can come in and just have a great relaxing session of body work. But if you've got issues that have been unresolved from something else, I encourage you to come in and give it a try. We're at Serendip PT. Look us up on the web. I look forward to helping you on your healing journey. Thanks. This is Jane Franzak with Serendip PT.